Hey everyone, back with another video. Today I want to talk about why success is actually a very, very lonely path and why, a lot of times you find yourself working alone rather than with friends. It would be amazing if, we could always work with our best friends on everything and we all have the same vision, the same mindset, the same goals, everything, right? But that doesn't happen. In fact, I would say 98% of the time, you're stuck alone. Now let's analyze that. Why? Why are you stuck alone? Why can't you just work with friends? Why does it make it so complicated? Well, the reality is, if you're trying to become successful, what's happening in your life? A lot of changes, right? You're trying to grow. You're trying to pursue this thing that's so difficult to achieve. And it's something that you can't even see yet. It's something that only exists in your mind. In your mind. So now if we try to introduce friends into the situation, what happens? Well, to be frank with you, there's so many people in this world, right? And they're all at different stages of life. Even if you guys are the same age, their level of development may be extremely different, right? So because of that, because their level of development may be extremely different, they may not agree with you on certain things, which is fine, but they may not also see things the way you see them. They may not be on the same pace of the journey as you are. And because of that, that can cause a lot of issues, right? That can cause you to get distracted, or it can cause them to not agree with certain things. When really the most important thing for you is to just put in that work, fail, try again, but they may not understand that at all. Like I said in the environment video, it's like if your environment around you is filled with people who just have no idea what you're trying to do, don't even comprehend why you're trying to do it, have no intention to actually work hard, and have no intention to sacrifice anything, how do you expect to be able to become successful with them around you? It's almost literally impossible, right? So you guys need to kind of wake up and realize that, because that's often the reason why success is so lonely. Because you're going to be at a certain stage of your own development, right? And you need to finish that, let's say, timeline of development in order to become successful. But if your friends are all either behind you or ahead of you, right? Maybe they'll help you if they're ahead of you, right? But if they're behind you or they have no intention of even starting the same process or the journey you're starting, they're just going to be a really big, difficult, hard distraction. I hate to say it like that, but it's really the truth. Because when your friends don't share the same goals as you, right? It gets very difficult. All the conversations get very difficult, because then it's like, well, what do you talk about with them? Well, you talk about other stuff, which is fine. But then now it's like those friends are no longer there to maybe give you advice, learn from you. You can't learn from them as much. And that just creates a very bad cycle. I agree. There's definitely friends, out there that you can learn a lot from. But most of the time, we don't default start off with those friends. We develop those friends after years and years of, working hard and just finding ourselves in other situations where there's a lot of other people who are working really hard. But you don't just find those friends automatically. And the other thing is, when you're building something by yourself, right? It's just, you need to be able to rely on yourself, right? And usually if you're very committed, you can be very reliable because you control that. But your friends, they may not be as committed to you, or they may not be as committed to your goals as you are, right? Or committed to the shared goals. So it becomes very difficult if you're working with them, because they may not have the same level of commitment that you have, right? And because of that, that can cause a lot of issues, a lot of complications, all these sort of things. So it's really if you want to work hard with a friend, that's perfectly fine. There's definitely some good friends out there, and it does happen. But I would, ask you guys to consider that this is actually the rare exception. This is not the norm. You look at a lot of successful people. Yes, some of them have good founders, right? They work together as a team. They create an amazing company. A lot more of them are solo. Think about it. So many of them are solo. It doesn't mean they didn't get help, but they are not constantly working with one other person who is of equal level as them every day. They're in charge. And it's because of the fact that they have their own commitment to getting success and achieving that. And they have their own idea of what it means to work hard. They have their own journey and their own plan and their own process. And unless you combine that with somebody else who can, agree with you and who also has the same timelines and all this stuff, unless you have that, otherwise it's very, very hard to work long-term with somebody to become successful. And the other thing is, if your friends don't understand what's going on, even if they want to support you, more often than not, they're just going to judge you because they just simply don't understand. I'm putting this in the best way possible, but to be honest, your friends may not be there to support you because they just don't understand what's going on. And a lot of times they may kind of just make fun of you for doing whatever you're doing. But if you know deep down in your heart, this is what you need to do, then you shouldn't be holding back. And that's why I also say you need to limit exposure to certain groups of people, because certain people that are your friends, they may actually stomp out your dreams before you even realize it, just because they didn't share the same dream as you. They couldn't think as big as you could think, and they're not willing to put in as much work as you are. And so because of that, they're stomping out your dreams. And all I'm going to say is just keep your dreams, guys, but just like get out there and start working and working and working. And the more you work, right, the more you're going to find yourself in that position where you're probably working alone, because most people in this world are not willing to put in the same number of hours as you are. They're not willing to make the same level of sacrifice. And because of that, it becomes very difficult to try to work with them. Because if you are willing to go 5 extra hours and they're only willing to go 1, pretty soon there's going to be a huge, huge gap in between you two. And that's a very hard gap to try to stay, if you're trying to stay with them and work with them to become successful, that's a very, very big gap. So that's why I say, unfortunately, there's going to be a period of your life where you're probably going to be alone working a lot. You can still have friends and stuff, but I'm just saying you may not be working on stuff with friends. You may be building things on the side that people may not realize. I think that some of your close friends would hopefully support you, but to be honest, that's a luxury a lot of us don't have. And you may just be like me, kind of in a room, just working. And you have to realize that's totally okay. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that. It just means that you're building towards a dream that maybe not a lot of other people see, or at least you haven't found the other people who share your dream yet. And hopefully, one day you will find them. So that way you can, build with them and you don't have to be like all completely alone. But the reality is it just takes a long time and those people are pretty rare. So my biggest advice to you guys, don't try to chase a friend. If they're not willing to work with you on this dream, don't try to find somebody else to work with you. Just start with yourself, start learning all these experiences, because at the end of the day, you become the most reliable person that you can trust. And it just makes things so much more simple. By adding another person, you just add a huge number of variables to this kind of equation for success. And like I've mentioned before, success is already so difficult to achieve, and adding another person can complicate it so much. So try to just stick through it yourself. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below. I'll be answering them all. Make sure you guys subscribe and follow for more, and I hope this was helpful.